Alright, how's it going, everyone? So there's been some UFC 5 gameplay that Lord and Master Martial Mind has been allowed by his EA overlords to upload to his YouTube channel. It's a fight between him and Romero 17. I don't know if this video will be allowed to stay up because I'm just showing his gameplay, but if that's the case, then Romero 17's video needs to come down as well. He live streamed himself reacting to this video, so it's just reacting to another YouTube video. I've not released any gameplay. This is Martial Mind's gameplay, so we're gonna go through it together. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna pause it as little as possible. I just kind of want to keep this video condensed to 22 odd minutes. Maybe it'll just run a bit over that. But if I see something interesting, I'll pause it and just comment on it. But let's just get straight into it. So it's going to be Marshall is playing as Chito Vera, and Romero's playing as Corey Sandhagen. Right off the bat, I wish... I mean, I was going to start off on a positive, and I think I will do that. I'll start off on a positive, which is the one thing I was most excited for in the game. Well, not most excited for, but the best change that I think has been made so far. And that's the submission system looks way more fluid now. It makes the fights look like actual scrambling matches when you're going for submissions and escaping them and transitions. I like that where they're going with the submissions. So there's your positive out the way. Now roll on the negatives. I'm just kidding. But to just counter that positive with a negative right away, these are 30 FPS ring walks. I am actually on HD here, so this should be playing at 60 FPS. And the video is playing at 60 FPS. Fucking adverts. Video is playing at 60. But the ring walks and these entrances are at 30 FPS. Which is fucking shocking considering we're on next-gen hardware. Look at it, that's 30 FPS, I can tell by looking at it. Exactly the same as our PS4 Pro runs the game. The actual fight is in 60. But the everything else, so that's ring walks, cage entrances, and replays. And I think post-fight announcements of winners is all in 30. So that's a bit of a shame. You'd think that it would be 60 FPS across the board with the next-gen hardware. You know, that fucking, that unicorn fella who did the, I can't remember his fucking name. One of the developers on the Zoom call thing that I talked about showed on one of my videos there. He was talking about 60 FPS coming until it was coming out of his fucking ears, but I suppose he was only actually talking about the fight as in 60, but he was talking about it like it's revolutionary and new, but if the PS4 Pro version ran the fight at 60 FPS, then what's new? Like, the fight's running at the same frame rate, so I just don't understand why he was talking about it like it's smoother now, and it's 60 FPS, it's 60 FPS, doesn't matter what fucking system you're playing it on. So that's a bit of a disappointment that, you know, the presentation side of things, now it's 60 FPS, I can tell by looking at it straight away, it's 60 FPS. So Marshall is going to be talking here, he's commentating, so I'm going to probably turn the volume down a lot during the fight, just so my voice and his voice are not clashing. So the fight will be barely audible by the time you see this and I've edited it. So obviously, you know, it looks very similar, doesn't it, to UFC 4, just a slight tweak. I mean, not much in graphical updates in terms of fighter likenesses. Also, by the way, they did Chito dirty there on his ring walk. That ring walk Chito was doing there was a animation from UFC 4, and I know that for a fact because my calf uses the same fucking ring walk. So they did Chito dirty, so, you know, all the song and dance they were playing in the fucking presentation video the other day, I guess only the marquee fighters have got their customized intros like Pereira and that fucking anime weeb Adesanya and, you know, the upper tiers in the division, but I'd say Cheeto's a fucking, you know what I mean? Pick people in the top 10 and have them do their own ring walks, you know, but Cheeto's ring walk there was definitely a UFC 4 ring walk. I should have actually pulled that back there and watched Corey's, but Cheeto's stood out. So I'm interested to learn the submissions in this game. I still don't quite know what's going on when I'm looking at these videos yet. You know, Marshall and Romero, they're veteran players when it comes to these games. They know the mechanics in and out. I'm not quite there, but far from it. So there's a lot of things I don't even know that you can do in these games. You know, I'm not some online sweatlord who knows everything about the game. I just play games for fun, but I've just not played these enough to know every area of the game and what you can do and what you can't do. So, you know, as the submissions are going by, I'm like struggling to keep up, like what's going on. So, like I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the game. I have already pre-ordered this. As much complaints as I have with it, I still want to play it. So, for all the mouth breathers who are saying, "Oh, you don't like it, you don't play it," that's a mouth breather logic. I've got every right, and everyone's got every right to point out things that they're not happy with, regardless if they've played the game. And even though there's things that they're not happy with, there's still probably things that they actually want to mess around with in the game. I'm pretty sure of that. So I know that I actually want to play this, and even though there's loads of shit in it that I don't like. So that don't like it, don't play it argument is just mouth breather. I mean, if I'll counter mouth breather with fucking mouth breather if he wants. Like, if you don't like anything negative that I'm saying in this video, then don't watch the fucking video. Yeah, there you go. There's your own fucking logic against you if you fucking want to parrot other people's bullshit. But you've got every right to fucking complain if things have not asking for too much of a generational leap in between the games, but I think my main problem with this is maybe they've not given us enough. I'm happy with it looking the way it looks, but if a few more things would have been added, at a fucking minimum, it would have just been look like EA had actually put the work in. But I think that's what people are mainly frustrated about. It's like it feels like they've been lazy again, and like, I know a lot of people are saying this is kind of what UFC 4 should have been. But I just feel like more could have been done. I mean, I don't know if it's... I don't think it's my settings on my monitor. Well, I'm sorry, I'm watching this on a laptop, but every gameplay piece of footage that I've seen of the actual fight, like even in the presentation video that got released the other day, the colours seem a little bit bright to me. Like, the brightness seems like a little bit too bright. Do you know? It's like, look at Corey's skin. Like, look at the exposure on Corey's skin. It's like really white. Like, and like look at the red tape on his wrists there on the glove. Like, I want those reds to be red. It's almost like a faded red, isn't it? Like, the mat looks a little bit too... Everything, the brightness, just like the red UFC font on the ring mat there, the Prime bottle there on the logo. It looks more of a faded, washed out red. I think that's the word I'm looking for. The colours look a little bit washed out. And I just wish whatever filter they've got sitting over the top of the gameplay, just get rid of that filter and just show us the real colours, like, If PC guys had hold of this, they'd mod that, and that'd be one of the first mods I'd be installing. Get rid of the fucking filters. PC players been shit on again. So, as I'm, I know I'm talking a lot as I'm watching this, but I am actually paying attention to what's going on. And I have seen this video once, by the way. I watched it one time, so I thought I'd do a reaction, like a post-reaction video, if you like. But I do like these scrambles. The submissions look a lot more, like, fluid. So that's a big... well, I was going to say a big improvement, but it's an improvement, let's just say, over the previous installment submissions where, it was just a lot of, like, fishing for denials and stuff like that. And this looks like, I like the way they roll from being in a dominant position with the submission then to losing it. And, it's... there was a point during this fight, it was like, I like the scrambles. Like, the scrambles look a lot more, like, representative of what actually goes on in an MMA fight. I wish the crowd popped a bit more in these games. I wish the crowd was a lot better. I was like for the amount of people that are in this arena, there should be more. It should be more vocal, and it should be louder, and a roaring crowd. And it doesn't. It sounds like there's about fucking 1,000 people in the audience. Do you know what I mean?
Submissions that I want, but right there I get rolled into a triangle, but I figured he was going to try to go mount, and I deny it because he was trying to use
So there's
that
those like
to get back
same elbows from the previous game that you could drop inside control. I'm seeing a lot of people fuming over the you could only throw one fucking elbow in postured up. Like for some reason your elbows turned into a WWE Money in the Bank cash in. Like you get to cash one fucking elbow in and that's it. Like hopefully that'll change as when the get from the game's launch onwards, because the way they sort of sold the elbows being back in the game in the build up to this, into the game's launch, and then to just pull the rug out from under you and go, oh, we have put elbows in. We didn't say you could throw many of them. No, we just left out that you could throw one. So hopefully that'll change. It's weird. Why even have them in at all? Like if you're just gonna let people throw one, then just take them back out again. Do you know what I mean? It's fucking pointless having them in. Maybe that's just an early build sort of decision, but obviously, if you want to get people hyped, why not have elbows in the early build and show it off to get people excited rather than have people pissed off? I think that's the majority reaction to this game in overall. I think by the community, I'd say like a 80% are not happy with the game. Maybe a 70, 75, 80% are really not happy with what they've been offered here. And there's like a 20%, 25, 30% that are just like, don't question it, don't talk about any negatives, just accept it. So there's like, I see way more negative comments directed towards this game than positive ones. And rightly, it's not just negative for the sake of being negative, which a lot of people like to say. And that gets waved off. If you've got anything negative to say, people just dismiss it as like, oh, you're just being hateful for being hateful. Which is just not the case. It's just not the case. People have got every right, and there's some actual MMA fans who play this game as well. I'm one of them, and not just like there's people who I'm sure play who don't even watch MMA, but they just enjoy playing the game, and that's fair enough, but there's actual, fans of the sport, and people just know or feel like they should be offered more from a next-gen mixed martial arts title, and like I'm not saying I don't want it to be too drastically different, but just build on the previous installments and improve them each time. So one thing I did notice during this watch through the first time, so if you cast your mind back to the presentation video when they went on to the section about blood, and it's staying on the canvas, a lot of it does actually. I'll just to cut a long story short, but I'll go into a long story anyway. The blood will actually stay where it drops onto the canvas in this game, and I know a lot of people have said, well, that was something that was in the fourth game, blood going on the canvas, and it was, but it's not the same as in this game. I've noticed, like in UFC 4 at least. Yes, like let's say if someone was in your guard and they're on top of you and they're bleeding, the blood would fucking obviously go through your fucking player model, and it would land on the mat, and it would, you'd get like droplets of blood on the mat, but it wouldn't stay there. Like those exact droplets that hit the mat would not stay there. What would happen was, if you get to the end of the round, it'd go to like the mid-round cutscene where they go back to their corners, and when the next round loads in, there's sort of like predetermined patches on the floor where the game will distribute patches of blood and like a blood smear patch. And I know that for a fact because in UFC 4, I've had some fights that have got really bloody, and there's some textures of blood on the floor that are sort of like a blood smear. So it's kind of like, it's as if like blood has fell on the mat and someone's kind of like walked over it, or someone's kind of back has rubbed up against the mat and sort of painted the blood along the floor. So they're not droplets, that's a smear, and you don't get smears like organically drop, like it's just you can't smear blood like that. Those are predetermined blood textures that get dished out in between rounds, so when the next round loads in, it looks like there's blood where you were previously were. If you understand, if you know what I mean, I think some of you know what I'm getting at. But in this game, like I'll point it out in a minute, someone actually gets cut, blood actually drips on the floor, and if you sort of take a mental note of where those blood droplets fell, when the next round comes around, they're in the same place. So at least they were telling the truth about that, you know. And so yes, it's in UFC 4, but not to the extent that it's executed in this game. You can say you sort of, without repeating myself, but like it actually does, it works properly in this game, but it didn't work properly in the previous game.
You'll notice he's gonna start doing it over and over again, and I'm like, stop. Tell him stop. Romero would do that. He'll find one thing and then he'll just troll you with it over and over again until you catch on. Then he'll stop. Right there, front leg side kick to the body, and my body health is just getting butchered.
I'm just hoping at a minimum, I'm hoping that the responsiveness of the strikes has been changed. That was one thing that annoyed me about 4, and I actually didn't mind 4 in some areas. You know, I just always wanted the striking to be a bit more responsive, and from what I'm hearing feedback from people who've played the beta, that's one thing that they has sort of become a bit more responsive. So that's something I'm looking forward to experiencing myself. Obviously, the striking is the most enjoyable part of this for me, even though I'm a fan of grappling. You know, the striking's where it's at in a fucking combat sports game, but it doesn't hurt to have good submissions, a good submission system in the game either, to make it a more complete MMA game. But obviously the striking's the most attractive part for me, and I guess a lot of people.
They need a lot of work, man, in terms of fighter uniqueness, where I'm still talking to them about it. Don't think I've stopped complaining about that. I've been complaining about strike animations longer than anybody else on YouTube, and I haven't stopped doing it. You know?
I don't know if you heard Marshall there as he was talking. He said he's still complaining to the devs about strike animations, and according to Marshall, he's done it more than anyone on YouTube. He's complained more than anyone on YouTube. So all I'll say to that is it just shows you how little that they listen to the game changes. If Marshall claims that he's been complaining about it longer than anyone, and very little has changed with the striking animation, so they don't really take the game changes feedback into account, really, I don't think. They might throw them a bone here and there. See, actually, while I'm talking, so there's a little bit of blood build-up happening here. I think there'll be a better one coming up, and there's going to be more blood added to it, but just take note of where this blood is here. It's like near the Fight Pass logo, underneath the UFC and the Prime logo. I think this is the blood patch I'm sort of thinking of. So just take a mental note of where that is, in between those two logos there, and just slightly above the ESPN logo.
Nice side step. Look at that body is getting butchered, man. And I can just see right there. I rock him though. He does a very good job of. I don't mind that slice and elbow animation. That looks a little bit better than the previous installment, I feel. So here we go. Remember, pay attention to this blood here for when the next round loads in. And I'm pretty sure that it's the same. That's the same droplets that fell during the actual fight, and not just like a predetermined blood texture that gets loaded in after the that gets loaded in as the next round starts. You see, there's no cut right there. The moment it lands, forehead gets busted open.
Welcome to Sapphire.
Did that kick even hit him in the head to cut him open? Didn't even look like it landed. Took my eye off for a second.
Nice touch.
Okay, and there you can see there's that blood still there in the same place above the low ESPN and between the Prime. So they were telling the truth about that, but it's not exactly like UFC 4. Just take my word for it. I've seen enough blood textures in UFC 4, and even during UFC's life cycle, I've often thought the blood is not in the right places where it fell. And I keep seeing the same blood smear textures, and like you can't smear blood in this game by walking around the octagon. It just doesn't. It just stays as droplets and slightly larger pools. So, in terms of like to sort of quote what fucking Colonel Sanders' developer said in the presentation video, that fucking b-boy version of Colonel Sanders, he's like, what was he saying? It sort of paints a story of the fight, like the canvas being, coated in red claret, you know what I mean? So, at least he was fucking telling the truth about that.
Occasionally, he'll switch up the way he throws the combinations. He'll throw
He'll combo the strikes properly, like 1, 2, 3, and then sometimes he'll switch it up where he'll go 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2. Something that,
like I say, I'm not an online player in games, so I'm focused on like the career modes. I love doing career modes in these games, so that's what content I'll be uploading when this game eventually drops. I'll have to take a bit of time to get used to the submissions, but that's what I'll be focusing on, a bunch of career modes, and I wish we'd see a little bit more info on career mode. And one thing I want to mention, if you think back to the presentation video with Bebop Colonel Sanders, B-Boy Colonel Sanders, he mentioned for the actual roster fighters, they've got like a technology for like morphing the body types, so they can get like slightly over like the bigger, so that the Taito Ivasa type kind of body types, and they can stretch the skin to make it look more like the real life counterpart bodies, or close to. I don't think they've ever quite got the physiques right in this game. Everyone's a little bit too muscular. Their forearms are too long. This has been a thing. Like, look at their forearms. Like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Look at their forearms are way too long, and some of their legs look a little bit too short. They look like fucking Deadpool. You know, when Deadpool's got those little fucking baby legs. Like, it's weird that some of the torsos feel too long. But what I was getting at then with the technology to morph their bodies, I hope we get something like that for the career mode, rather than just giving us a shitty load of presets to pick from. Like, you know, they've openly admitted that they can, you know, warp bodies to get, you know, different unique looking physiques. So why not extend that sort of tech into the customization mode in the career? I don't think we will. I hope we do. Like Undisputed will have that. The boxing game Undisputed will have that, where you can sort of morph the body shapes. But I wish they put it in this so you could get more unique looking body types. But to be honest with you, I don't think we will. I think we'll just get the same presets that we've been given for the last 4 games. I hope I'm wrong, and I'd love to be proven wrong, but I can't see it. I got a feeling the career mode's going to be, and I'm not talking about the online career mode, I'm talking about offline, single player career mode. I just feel like it's going to be a bit bare bones and lazy like the last one. So there it is. I just want to sort of get my hands on this now. Like I say, I've paid £100 for it, so I want to fucking play it, and I want to comment on what it's like when I've played it. So that, like I said earlier, that mouth breather, don't like it, don't play it logic is just fucking, you know, get the fuck out of here with it. It's fucking, it's got no place. So 30 FPS in this scene again, I can tell by looking at this. I just wish it was 60. They should have just had 60 across the board. Regardless if you're skipping the cutscenes or not, or you're skipping the replays. Should be just 60 FPS flat out.
So there you have it, man. Thank you so much for watching, boys. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the love, all the support.
Are those player models a little bit too tall? I just saw it at the last minute there. Corey looked fucking massive. That's another thing they never quite got right with this. The actual heights of the fighters. Alright, well I think I'm probably going to leave it there. Any more gameplays come out, I'll be sure to have a watch along with yous. But for now, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching, everyone. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.